Hello, my wonderful students. Welcome to our channel, Learn English with Clara. Today we are going to talk about something every single person wants, but almost nobody is taught directly. Trust. How do you earn it? How do you keep it? And why do some people seem to build deep trust everywhere they go, while others struggle to be believed even when they are telling the truth? Listen carefully. Trust is not a personality trait. It is not something you either have or do not have. Trust is built through specific, learnable behaviors, small actions repeated consistently over time. Researchers who study relationships, leadership, and human connection have actually identified exactly what these behaviors are. And today, we are going to walk through them, one by one, using real research, not just opinions. Another important truth is this. Trust affects everything in your life. Your friendships, your family, your career, your relationships, even strangers deciding whether to help you or believe you. When people trust you, doors open. When people do not trust you, even your good intentions get questioned. So this topic is not small. It is one of the most valuable things you can ever learn to build. Take a moment and think about the people you trust most deeply in your own life. What do they actually do that makes you feel safe with them? Keep that person in your mind as we go through today's lessons, because you will probably notice they are already doing many of these things naturally. Lesson 1. Trust is built in small moments. Let us start with a discovery that surprised even the researcher who found it. A psychologist named John Gottman spent years observing couples in ordinary, everyday interactions in what became known as his research lab. He noticed something he called bids for connection. A bid is any small attempt one person makes to connect with another. A simple question, a comment about something they noticed, a sigh, a small joke, even pointing at a bird outside the window. Listen carefully, because what happened next is remarkable. Gottman tracked how people responded to these small bids, turning toward them with attention and interest, or turning away, ignoring them, distracted by something else. Then, years later, he followed up with the same couples. The couples who were still together had turned toward each other's small bids about 86% of the time. The couples who had separated had turned toward each other's bids only about 33% of the time. Another important truth is this. Notice what that research is actually telling us. Trust was not decided by huge, dramatic moments. It was decided by thousands of tiny, ordinary moments, whether one person's small attempt to connect was noticed and answered or ignored. Gottman called these small opportunities sliding door moments, because in each one, there is a door that quietly opens for a second, and you either walk through it or you let it close. Think about this carefully. This means trust is not primarily built through big gestures, expensive gifts, or dramatic apologies after huge mistakes. It is built through the accumulation of small, everyday responses. Did you look up from your phone when someone started talking to you? Did you ask a follow-up question when a coworker mentioned something bothering them? Did you remember a small detail someone shared with you last week and bring it up again later? Another dangerous thing many people misunderstand is this. They believe trust requires perfect behavior or constant, intense emotional connection. It does not. Nobody can turn toward every single bid, every single time, perfectly. What matters is the overall pattern, the percentage, over weeks, months, and years. You do not need to be perfect. You simply need to be present, far more often than you are absent. Take a moment and think about your closest relationships right now. Are you turning toward the small bids people offer you? A question, a comment, a small piece of news they want to share? Or are you often distracted, dismissive, or too busy to notice these small openings? Remember this carefully. because this idea will shape every lesson that follows today. Trust is not one large decision made once. It is a pattern, built moment by moment, small door by small door. And the good news inside that truth is powerful. If trust is built in small moments, it means you can start building it again, right now, in your very next conversation. Lesson 2. Be reliable. Now, let us talk about something simple to understand, but genuinely difficult to practice consistently. Reliability. Being someone who does what they say they are going to do, again and again, without needing to be reminded or chased. Listen carefully. Researcher and author Brené Brown, who has spent years studying trust, describes reliability as one of the essential building blocks of being trusted by others. Her core idea is simple but powerful. You can only trust someone if they do what they say they will do, over and over again. Not once, not occasionally, consistently. Another important truth is this. Reliability is not only about keeping big promises. It is often built or destroyed through the smallest commitments. Saying you will call someone back and actually calling them back. Saying you will arrive at a certain time and actually arriving on time. Saying you will finish a task by a certain day and actually finishing it by that day. Each one of these small moments feels unimportant on its own, but together, they build a pattern that other people notice, whether you realize it or not. Think about this carefully. Reliability also means understanding your own limits honestly. A truly reliable person does not promise everything to everyone, just to sound helpful in the moment. They understand what they can realistically deliver, and they say no to the things they cannot, instead of overpromising and then quietly disappointing people later. Overpromising might feel kind in the short term, but breaking that promise later damages trust far more deeply than an honest, "I cannot do that," ever would. Another dangerous thing many people do is this. They believe reliability only matters for big, important commitments, work deadlines, major promises, significant events. But research on trust shows the opposite is often true. Small, repeated reliability, showing up when you said you would, replying when you said you would, remembering the small things you agreed to, builds a foundation that big moments later depend on completely. Take a moment and think honestly about your own reliability. Do you generally follow through on what you say, even the small things? Or do people in your life quietly learn to expect that your promises might not happen? Be honest with yourself here, because this reflection is valuable, not something to feel ashamed of. Remember this carefully. Reliability is a skill you can start practicing immediately, starting today, with the very next small promise you make. Say only what you actually intend to do, then do exactly that. Over time, this simple practice becomes one of the strongest, most quietly powerful forms of trust you can offer another person. Lesson 3. Show warmth before you show competence. Here is a fascinating discovery from social psychology research. When people meet someone new or evaluate someone they already know, their brain is constantly automatically judging that person along two major dimensions. Warmth, meaning kindness, friendliness, and good intentions, and competence, meaning skill, intelligence, and capability. Listen carefully because the order actually matters. Researchers studying what is called the stereotype content model found something called the warmth primacy effect. This means people generally judge warmth first before they judge competence. In other words, before people decide whether you are capable, they are already deciding, often unconsciously, whether your intentions toward them are good or bad. Another important truth is this. Warmth is essentially a signal of intent. It answers a question every human brain asks automatically about every other person. Is this person going to help me or harm me? Competence answers a different question. Is this person actually able to follow through on that intent? But intent gets evaluated first because, historically, a highly competent person with bad intentions is actually more dangerous than an incompetent one. Think about this carefully because it has real, practical implications. Many people, especially in professional situations, try to earn trust by proving their competence first. They lead with their achievements, their skills, their credentials. This is not wrong exactly, but research suggests it may not be the most effective starting point. If someone does not yet sense your warmth, your genuine good intentions toward them, your competence alone may actually make them feel more cautious, not less. Another dangerous thing many capable people accidentally do is this. In trying to appear strong, skilled, or impressive, they forget to show basic warmth first. A genuine smile, real interest in the other person, simple kindness in how they speak. This can unintentionally create distance, even when their actual intentions are completely good. People end up respecting their skill without yet trusting their heart. Take a moment and think about someone you deeply trust professionally. Chances are you did not trust their competence alone. You likely felt their warmth first, their genuine care about doing right by you, and their skill simply confirmed and strengthened a trust that had already begun to form. Remember this carefully. This does not mean competence does not matter. It absolutely does, especially over time. But if you want to earn trust quickly and genuinely, lead with warmth. A genuine smile, real curiosity about the other person, simple kindness before you ever need to prove anything else. Competence can be demonstrated afterward, once the door of trust has already been opened. Lesson 4. Protect what people tell you. Now let us talk about something Brené Brown's research calls the vault. This means keeping information that people share with you private, confidential, and safe, exactly as they intended it to be kept. Listen carefully, because this lesson has a surprising twist that many people never consider. Research on trust reveals something interesting. People do not only judge whether you keep their own secrets safe, they also watch closely how you talk about other people when those other people are not in the room. If you gossip freely about someone else's private information to me, some quiet part of my mind immediately understands something important. This is exactly what you will do with my information too, the moment I am not in the room either. Another important truth is this. Trust is not built only through direct interaction. It is also built by observation. Someone might never share a single secret with you personally and still deeply trust or distrust you based entirely on how they have watched you handle other people's private information. Gossip, even when it feels harmless, casual, or even entertaining in the moment, quietly teaches everyone watching that your vault is not actually secure. Think about this carefully. There is an important difference between healthy communication and broken confidentiality. Sometimes you genuinely need to discuss a situation with someone else for real, legitimate reasons, seeking advice, resolving a genuine problem, protecting someone's safety. That is different from casually sharing private details simply because they are interesting to talk about. The real test is intention. Are you sharing this to genuinely help the situation, or simply because it feels good to know something others do not? Another dangerous thing many people underestimate is this. Breaking someone's trust with private information does not usually feel like a big betrayal in the moment it happens. It often feels small, a passing comment, a joke, and, "I probably shouldn't tell you this, but to the person whose information was shared, discovering that betrayal, even much later, can permanently change how safe they feel with you, no matter how reliable or warm you were in every other way. Take a moment and think honestly about your own habits here. When someone shares something personal with you, do you treat it with real care afterward? And when you are with other people, do they see you protecting others' privacy or casually discussing it? Remember this carefully. Being known as someone whose vault stays firmly closed is one of the quiet, powerful reputations you can build over time. People may not consciously notice it every single day, but they absolutely notice it, remember it, and decide how much of themselves they are willing to share with you because of it. Lesson 5. Own your mistakes. Nobody is perfect. Everyone makes mistakes, breaks a promise occasionally, misunderstands a situation, or genuinely lets someone down sometimes. This lesson is not about never making mistakes. It is about what you do immediately after you make one. Listen carefully, because this is genuinely one of the fastest ways trust is built or destroyed. Research on trust consistently identifies accountability as an essential ingredient, meaning honestly owning your mistakes, offering a real apology, and making genuine amends, instead of minimizing what happened, blaming someone else, or quietly hoping nobody notices. Another important truth is this: people do not actually expect perfection from you. Most people understand deeply that mistakes are simply part of being human. What people are truly watching for, often more closely than the mistake itself, is your reaction to it. Do you get defensive? Do you make excuses? Do you quietly disappear and hope the problem resolves itself? Or do you clearly acknowledge what happened, take real responsibility, and work to make it right? Think about this carefully with a simple comparison. Imagine two people who both make the exact same mistake at work. The first person says, "That wasn't really my fault, there were a lot of factors involved." The second person says, "I made a mistake here. I understand why it caused a problem, and here is what I am going to do differently." Even though the original mistake was identical, these two responses create completely different levels of trust going forward. One protects an image. The other protects a relationship. Another dangerous thing many people do is this. They believe admitting fault will make them look weak, unreliable, or incompetent. Research on trust actually shows the opposite pattern. Genuine accountability, done honestly and without excessive self-punishment, often increases trust rather than damaging it, because it proves something valuable. That you can be honest even when honesty is uncomfortable for you personally. Take a moment and think about the last real mistake you made in an important relationship. How did you respond? Did you own it clearly? Or did some part of you try to soften, explain away, or avoid the full truth of what happened? Remember this carefully. You will make more mistakes in the future. Everyone does. But each mistake is also a genuine opportunity, a chance to show someone exactly how trustworthy you truly are. Not by pretending you are perfect, but by proving that your honesty remains steady, even during your most uncomfortable, imperfect moments. Lesson 6. Be the first to be vulnerable. This next lesson feels a little counterintuitive at first, but research supports it strongly. Sometimes, the fastest way to earn someone's trust is not waiting for them to trust you first. It is being willing to show a little vulnerability yourself first. Listen carefully. A researcher named Paul Zak has spent years studying the biology of trust, including the role of a hormone called oxytocin, which appears to be connected to cooperative, trusting behavior between people. His research found something interesting about leadership specifically. When a leader shows genuine vulnerability, honestly asking for help, admitting they do not have every answer, rather than simply issuing instructions from a position of pretended perfection, it appears to increase the trust and cooperation of the people around them. Another important truth is this. Vulnerability does not mean oversharing every personal struggle with everyone you meet. That would create discomfort, not trust. It means something more specific, being honestly willing to say, I don't know, I need help with this, or I was wrong about that, instead of always performing total confidence and control. Real vulnerability, offered appropriately, signals something powerful to another person, that you trust them enough to be honest, even when honesty makes you look less perfect. Think about this carefully because it works almost like a mirror. When you show a small amount of genuine vulnerability towards someone, it often, though not always, invites them to relax their own guard slightly in return. This creates what researchers sometimes describe as a kind of trust loop. One small act of honesty inviting another small act of honesty, gradually building real closeness between two people, instead of two carefully guarded surfaces staying at a safe, permanent distance from one another. Another dangerous thing many people do is this. They believe that appearing constantly strong, confident, and in control is the fastest path to being respected and trusted. But total, unbroken confidence can actually feel distant and difficult to relate to. Nobody feels emotionally close to a person who never admits a single doubt, weakness, or need. Ironically, appearing occasionally human, honest about your limits, often builds deeper trust than appearing endlessly perfect ever could. Take a moment and think about a time someone was honest with you about a struggle, a mistake, or something they did not know. Did that honesty make you trust them less or more? For most people, the honest answer is more, not less. Remember this carefully. You do not need to share your deepest secrets with every person you meet. But practicing small, appropriate honesty, admitting uncertainty, asking for help, acknowledging a limitation, can become one of the most effective tools you have for inviting real trust into your relationships, instead of quietly waiting forever for someone else to go first. Lesson 7. Set honest boundaries. This lesson often surprises people the most because it seems to contradict everything else we have discussed today. How could saying no, setting limits, and protecting your own time actually build trust with other people? Let us look at the research carefully. Listen carefully. According to trust research, boundaries are considered an essential foundation for genuine trust, not an obstacle to it. The idea is described simply. You are willing to say no when you truly need to, and you are equally willing to respect someone else's no when they need to set a boundary of their own. Another important truth is this. A person who says yes to absolutely everything, who never sets any limits, who always agrees regardless of their own actual capacity or feelings, does not actually become more trustworthy. They often become less predictable and less reliable because eventually their limited time, energy, or honesty runs out, often at the worst possible moment, and promises quietly begin breaking under the pressure of having agreed to far too much. Think about this carefully. Clear boundaries actually make you more predictable, and predictability is closely connected to trust. If someone knows clearly what you will and will not do, what you can and cannot commit to, they can plan around you honestly. But if you constantly say yes to avoid conflict, then quietly fail to follow through later, people learn something uncomfortable over time, that your yes does not always mean yes. Another dangerous thing many people misunderstand is this. They believe boundaries make them seem difficult, unhelpful, or unkind. But healthy boundaries, communicated respectfully, usually do the opposite. They demonstrate self-respect and honesty, two qualities deeply connected to being trusted. A boundary respectfully stated, I can't take this on right now, but I want to be honest with you instead of overpromising, often builds more trust than a reluctant yes that later falls apart. Take a moment and think about your own patterns here. Do you say yes to things you do not actually have the capacity for, simply to avoid an uncomfortable moment? And afterward, does that promise sometimes quietly break because it was never realistic to begin with? Remember this carefully. A trustworthy person is not necessarily the person who always says yes. It is the person whose yes and no can both be genuinely relied upon, because both come from an honest, clear place, rather than fear, guilt, or a desire to please everyone in the moment. Lesson 8. Assume good intentions. We end today with a lesson about how you interpret other people, because trust is never only about how you behave, it is also about how generously or suspiciously you treat the people around you. Listen carefully. Research on trust describes this final piece as generosity, choosing to assume the most generous, reasonable explanation for someone else's words or actions, rather than immediately assuming the worst. Closely connected to this is something called non-judgment, creating a safe space where people feel they can be honest with you without fearing harsh criticism the moment they open up. Another important truth is this: trust is a two-way relationship, even though this entire video has focused mostly on what you can do to earn other people's trust. But people also sense, often very quickly, whether you are someone who assumes good intentions or bad ones. If someone senses that you constantly suspect them, judge them harshly, or assume the worst version of their motives, they naturally begin protecting themselves around you, sharing less, being more guarded, trusting you less in return. Think about this carefully with a simple example. A friend cancels plans at the last minute. One interpretation is, they clearly do not respect my time. A more generous interpretation is, something must have come up. I wonder if they are okay. Neither interpretation is automatically correct every single time. Real patterns of disrespect certainly do exist and deserve honest attention. But when you default towards suspicion first, every single time, you slowly close the door on the kind of open, relaxed connection where real trust can actually grow. Another dangerous thing many people do is this. They confuse being generous in their interpretations with being naive or easily fooled. These are not the same thing. Genuine generosity does not mean ignoring real, repeated patterns of harmful behavior. It means simply not assuming the worst about every small, ambiguous moment, while still staying honestly aware of real patterns over time. Wisdom and generosity can exist together. Take a moment and think about your own default reactions. When someone's behavior is unclear or ambiguous, does your mind usually reach for the kindest possible explanation first, or the most suspicious one? Remember this carefully, because this brings us back to where we started today. Trust is built in small moments, through reliability, warmth, discretion, accountability, appropriate vulnerability, honest boundaries, and yes, through how generously you choose to see the people around you too. None of these lessons require you to become a different person. They simply ask you to become a slightly more intentional version of the person you already are, one small, honest moment at a time. If this video helped you understand how to earn people's trust and helped you practice your English at the same time, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and keep learning with Clara.